You grew up here, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Tri-Cities area. Moved here when I was about 4 years old. Went to Kennewick schools based my whole life. I kind of grew up in the best of both worlds. My mom lived in Pasco. My dad lived in Kennewick. So I grew up with kind of two different sides of the totem pole, I guess you could say. So, yeah, grew up here and went to school at Kamaikan. I was pretty old when I graduated. I was 19. It's not my fault. It's my mom's fault because I have a sister that's 11 months apart. We're 11 months apart, so we're kind of Irish twins. So I guess when I was getting into school, I didn't want to go without my sister. So my mom held me back one year and then went with my sister. So that's why I was a little bit older than my grade. And I hated it. I hated grow up being in the same grade as my sister. I don't know why it was, but now we're close, and I think it all worked out the way it needed to be, back then. So yeah, I went to Kamaikan, and you said hobbies as well, or
Yeah,
just?
well, I know. I dressed like a motorcycle.
There we go.
rider.
Nice.
So
Right.
that, as Kim mentioned, so that you
Right.
can talk about
Yeah.
what your passion was growing up.
Yeah, and so when I was probably about 4 years old, I grew up racing dirt bikes, and I did that probably from when I was about almost 18, basically till I almost graduated high school. I played some basketball and some football, but it just was never really gave me the rush in a sense. But I grew up racing, and I attribute a lot of like how my mentality was with racing, just with being competitive and just kind of being just you and the machine out there, and not really relying on teams in a sense, and just getting it all on your own. And so, yeah, I grew up doing that. And then after just breaking every bone in my body and a bunch of surgeries, I had to give it up. And so, and really, that was somewhat my plan, I guess you could say, is I did want to try to pursue racing in some way, shape, or form. But I think in the back of my head, I knew that unless you're like in the top 20 of riders in the whole United States, you're not going to really make a career off of it, and you're just going to be living paycheck to paycheck and riding in a van race to race. And so I didn't really like that. And then really, after I had a really bad injury, it was 2 days before my 18th birthday, and I busted my whole collarbone and my AC joint. I shattered my hand and my thumb joint, and had a really bad concussion that gave me vertigo for like 3 to 4 years after. And that really, after that concussion, like it really messed up my head in a sense. Not in a bad way, but I'd say like for a few years there was, like I wasn't emotional, but like my emotions were strong, whether I was like angry, happy, or sad. And so I thank God, honestly, I stopped riding dirt bikes and getting so many concussions because, I don't know. Because was on my way to CTE, I guess you could say, and so I'm glad I stopped doing that. But no, I attribute a lot of what I did with motocross and just the drive and competitiveness is I don't think if I went through all those experiences in my life back then, I don't think I'd be where I am today. I always used to say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but older I get, less I start to believe that, just because, it seems like each year I get older, I age about 5 years physically, but it is what it is, hopefully modern medicine catches up a little bit and won't be too bad. So
You probably feel like me some mornings.
Sometimes, yep, sometimes.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
So why real estate? Obviously, you've made the right choice with your motivation. You had the motivation, but
Right.
trying to stay healthy.
And so I kind of grew up in real estate in a sense. My mom, she was doing real estate when I was younger, and my grandpa, he was a designated broker in the California area. And so I always kind of knew, I was kind of always around it, and I never liked it really, honestly, just because it was like, my mom was late for picking me up at school all the time, and it was just sporadic appointments, and creepy guys always wanted to go look at houses with her, and I just did not like any of it, honestly. I guess the mid-2000s were a little different, but and so never imagined myself getting into it. And then really after I graduated high school, I didn't really know what I was wanting to do with my life, and so I was working at Dutch Bros at the time, and they opened up a stand in Colorado area, and the owner, one of my buddies was moving down there, and so the owner was like, oh, do you want to come down and work there as well? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then when I got down to Colorado, the minimum wage was like $7.82. And it was a really weird state how you'd get tips, but when you got your check, they would like deduct the tips from your minimum wage. And I'd never seen that before. So like when I got my first check from there, I was like, F this. I was like, I'm not doing this, honestly. And so I remember there was a guy that came into the stand, and it's a funny story, but there was this guy named Chris that came in the Dutch Pro stand, and he worked at a bar called the Mayor of Old Town. He managed it, and it was like one of the biggest bars by CSU, Colorado State University. It had like 100 taps in a row. And so I got a job there and was making a lot better money, but just kind of wandering aimlessly. I was just going to community college and just kind of living paycheck to paycheck and not really doing anything with my life. And so the funny thing is that like 2 years ago, that was back in like 2015, 2016 when I was down there, but that same manager reached out to me. He called me from a Fort Collins number, and I was like, I wonder why Fort Collins number is calling me. And he told me that he recently got into real estate, and he was asking me some different tips and some different things like that with some stuff. So it's funny how that came full circle. But yeah, and then so I remember I came back here for winter break. I think I was in Colorado for like 6 months, and I came back here for winter break, and I still didn't have any plans of doing real estate. I was planning just to going back to Colorado, and I ran into this kid that I graduated with. And I was like, hey man, what are you up to? Nowadays. He's like, oh, I'm getting into real estate. And I was like, what, really? And then he just kind of started talking about it. And as he was talking, I think I almost stopped listening for a second. I was like, after a while, I was like, damn, if this kid could sell homes, I could probably do it too, honestly. And that literally was like what it was. That was like kind of the switch in my mind. So yeah, he was talking to me about it, and I was like, I kind of started looking into it. And I think that same night, I just went ahead and like with the last couple $100 I had, I purchased the test, and I really just kind of rushed into it. And I think it was more so just for my own kind of mental security in a sense, with just being like, okay, well, I don't really want to do college anymore. I'm paying for it on my own. I'm kind of wasting my time, and I just didn't really know what I want to do with my life. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just kind of pick up real estate, and that will kind of be the Band-Aid that I throw on it temporarily, and we'll see if it kind of works out. And so, yeah, I believe I got licensed in like, I think 4 or 5 weeks after I started the test. I blazed through it. I did not pay attention to it. I was like that in college and in high school. I just kind of blazed through it, C's get degrees. And so I didn't really pick up too many things. And I think I took the test like 3 or 4 times just to pass it. And then, yeah, finally got licensed, and I really thought, I was watching like $1 Million Listing, and I was like, oh, I could do that, I could do this. And I remember when I got licensed, I went to like Burlington Coat Factory, and I got all these like cheap, nice clothes and these blazers and all this, slacks and stuff like that. And yeah, and so, but I had really no idea, what it was going to be like. But that first 6-12 months, it was wolves. I was getting thrown into the wolves, but it all worked out. So yeah.
Awesome. So how many years is it now?
I believe I got licensed like right at the end of 2017, and then I want to say I met with Vicky in early 2018. So about 6 years now, I believe. Yeah, is it 6? Yeah, 6. And so yeah, I was 20. Yeah, I was 20 because I remember when I met with Vicky, I was coming up on my 21st birthday party, and she told me she got into real estate when she turned 21. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. I could, that's kind of similar. And so, yeah, that was really one of the main reasons, yeah, that I went. And so, yeah, and I still really remember that meeting very clearly too. And yeah, I remember sitting in the front. That's when Jocelyn and Leslie were still the front desk gals. And yeah, I was wearing some I looked very metro, that's for sure, and I just remember I just was always wearing flashy clothes back then, just, trying to kind of, thought it was $1 Million Listing Tri-Cities, but it wasn't really like that. And funny thing is when I stopped kind of, wearing all the fancy clothes and stuff, Matt will attest to this, he always makes fun of my clothes and stuff, but yeah, right, yeah. Right, yeah. And I remember I had this client, they were the owners of a winery, and they were one of my really first high-end clients. And he was kind of a good old boy, prideful guy. And I remember I was showing him some nearly $1 Million homes. And I remember I showed up one time, and I was wearing these white Calvin Klein boat shoes and these light blue pants. He's like, why are you wearing that? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, dude, why do you gotta, like, you don't gotta dress all fruity just to, like, impress me, honestly. And it, like, rocked my world, honestly. I was like, oh, shit. And so this is about as fruity as you're gonna see right here, honestly, from now. But no, not, but yeah, and I just remember that, and that changed. And I mean, I just really started thinking that, I mean, wealth's in the mind, not the pocket, you know. And I mean, dress nice, you know, but at the end of the day, if you know, you have it up here, people are gonna look past what they see on face value, in a sense, a lot of the times, you know. But yeah.
Awesome.
Really, well, when I first got started, I didn't have a sphere of influence. Like, all my friends they were just drunk idiots in college, honestly. I mean, they weren't doing anything, you know. And so when I first got started, I ended up kind of butting up with a builder, Polish at the time, and they had, I think, three different model homes at that time. And so I just started consecutively holding open houses and kind of got into the new construction realm first, and just started learning all the new construction and really just being in the field and kind of conversing with clients. And I didn't know anything at all, you know. And I mean, I really just tried to fake it till I made it all the time. And I always really tried to think, I'm like, okay, I really got to put on not a face in a sense, but I really got to act like I know what I'm doing and learn what I'm doing. And if you fake it for a while, then you'll start to realize that you start to embody it, you know. And so I remember when I got into real estate, I was like, oh, there's Jordan, and then there's JoJo, which is like in almost two different personalities. And it's weird when you first start, like, putting on that personality for work form, but then you just get so accustomed after a while. And then really, when I started working with Matt, I was still really kind of by the book with things. And I remember I went on some listing appointments with him. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, he's just like not raunchy, but just very, very personable, very personable. And so, and I just saw, I remember when we went I remember the first list point we went on, it was Leonard, Mark, remember Mark? Yeah, and then they were selling a home off Maryhill. I remember we like walked in there and you had like a listing agreement and Exhibit A, and you're like, yep, here's the list docs, just sign right here. And you didn't sign, like, and they didn't even like read it or anything. And I was like, why are they signing that without like, you know? And but I just realized, like, when in there, you almost like straight lined it in a sense, you know. It was just like, hey, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it. And then it was almost 20% kind of business and game plan, and this is what we're doing and talking numbers, but then the other 80% was just like you're hanging out with a friend and kind of BSing with them that. And so I went on a few with him, and I was like, oh, like, you don't have to go in there and, like, I used to look and be like, what's my sales pitch? You know, I better say that, say this, say that. And then when I went in there, just stopped trying to do that and being more personable, but also trying to bring the knowledge with it. It's when I really started having the most success with it, you know. And so, and I'd say, I mean, you know, like, I could never do what Matt exactly does. I can never do what Vicky or Pierce does exactly. But what you'll see is, like, when you're working with other agents, I mean, whether they're outside of this brokerage or not, I've always said, like, okay, you know, take little attributes of agents, like, hey, I kind of like the way they're doing that, or I kind of like the way they're doing this, and you just kind of start to formulate it all together and put it into your own business plan and your own personality, and that's where, you know, you find the most success in a sense, you know. And so, but yeah, so.
Okay, so where does most of your business come from?
Oh, and so most of my business, I'd say,
Back to the
yeah,
question.
sorry, good, yep, I'm glad, okay. So yeah, like I said, in the beginning, it was mainly just attacking open houses, and then I ended up double siding a few of the houses, then got an opportunity to list some of them. And I mean, it was a good thing and a bad thing, I'd say, just because I got so focused on new construction, and new construction's only available for so long. So I put like all my chips in that basket, and it was great too. I mean, it was a fun experience, and, you know, just really structured in a sense, you know. I'd almost say like I felt like I was like a Hayden Homes representative, or like a, you know, in-house type of agent. And so it was a negative just because I never really attacked resale. I never really like went on a couple different clients and a couple resale listings, but just always new construction. That was always the focus of it. And so after they sold out of the community, I really was like, well, crap, I don't really have anything to do, or I don't have anything to sell, you know. And so I really had to go back, and that was right when it was right kind of when COVID was hitting. And so I just had to go back to the drawing board and really try to start getting creative with just, you know, social media, advertising on different platforms, Google, Facebook, really everything. I tried everything out, and yeah, spent a lot of the money that I made just trying to kind of market myself and advertise myself. And then that was kind of right around the time when obviously the market was getting pretty darn hot. I always felt like I could do it. I just needed the opportunities in front of me. And I remember I had met with Vicky and Dawn and had explained that, and I was just like, hey, like I know I can do this. I just need more opportunities in front of me. And it seemed like really right after then, I mean, I don't know what happened, but it just all started coming together pretty quickly. And I think that was kind of right around the same time that I started building a little bit of the foundation from the business. I got some referrals from people that I worked with new construction. I had some friends starting to become home buyers, and it just kind of all started formulating together in a sense, you know? And so, but really, I mean, referrals, without a doubt, I'd say it seems like the percent goes up every time I talk about it, but I'd probably say anywhere from 80 to 85% is referral business. And it seems like lately, with now attacking social media every day in the last year, people will start to see it every single day. And even if they don't talk about it or anything like that, like I was in, like when you go out, people always are seeing what you're doing on social media. And so I would just say, just try to attack that as much as you can. And I've been getting a ton of my business from there. So I'd say primarily referrals, and then really just social media is where they all come from mostly. And so, and just little things here and there. I mean, obviously working with like 47, we'll get leads on them, and we'll convert those, and and then also when 47, when we had a plot up in Grandview area, it is a different market up there. Bowlesby can attest to that, but the referral business up there is really, really strong. A lot of the folks that you work with up there, a lot of people that up in there in the Valley area, their parents may have, came here from out of the country, didn't have citizenship, and weren't able to really coach their kids or the younger generation on, hey, you're going to use this lender, you're going to use this agent, this is how you're going to buy a house. And so when you meet someone that never had the guidance and you show them from A to Z on it, it seems like they really will take the shirt off their back for you. And I mean, just with having sold, was it 9 or 10 homes up there in Grandview area 47? I think I double-sided like 8 or 9 of them, and we sold them all before they were sold. And I mean, everyone up there, I mean, they all have friends, it's family members. And I mean, I remember I helped out this one family, and he referred me to his cousin, Randy. And I remember I met with Randy, and oh man, he had been in prison for like 12 years. And I remember I met with him and it was dark, and I was kind of scared just because he was wearing like the blue chucks, white socks, cargos, had teardrops tatted on his face. One of the coolest guys I met, actually. I actually ended up hanging out with him in Vegas one time when he was down there, and yeah, it's a long story. But so yeah, I mean, just being down there, I got a really good referral base built up over there. And I mean, I just had someone call me in Sunnyside earlier last month and was like, hey, you sold my brother a house and I don't like my agent, so I just fired him. Can you help me out? And we sold it for cash in 10 days, I want to say. And so, but yeah, just mainly referrals, and social media has kind of been the main focal point that I've been focusing on, I'd say the last about 2.5, 3 years, give or take. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say about 2.5, 3 years ago, you made a paradigm shift from
Right.
working only with buyers
Right.
to focusing on listings.
Right. Yep. And so, yeah, and I'd say, I mean, obviously with the buyer market how it was back in 20 and 21, it's just like, you could sell a home to anyone and their cousin with how good the rates were in a sense, and it was pretty easy. And I feel like, I mean, with going on different listing appointments, whether, it was with Matt or with Pierce or with anyone else, that was here, you just kind of start to learn how to work those leads. And I mean, I always say too, like if I get a lead on a phone call, I will try to make that phone call, a listing lead, I try to make that phone call really as short as possible. And really my only goal in that maybe 1 to 2 minute phone call is just to get a meeting set. And so because you'll see people are going to call you and say, well, what do you think my house is worth, and well, okay, well, I can send you a CMA. I wouldn't suggest that a lot of the times. I mean, I always just try to get in front of them in person and kind of just, see where they're going. And if you can get that face-to-face interaction, then that's going to be the, where you're going to find the most success. And so, yeah, it's, what was your question one more time again? Sorry about that. I ramble a little bit
No, we were talking
sometimes.
about paradigm shift.
Oh,
because
yeah.
He was
Yeah.
wearing himself out with buyers.
Yeah, it was pretty draining, and so I'd say, really the
Not
way.
that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not at all. And so, and with working with so many buyers, there's a lot of people that come. I mean, I've had a ton of people that bought in even 19 or 20 or 21 that have came back 2 years later and have sold. And so really kind of a lot of those buyers that I've helped out, whether they're referring their friends or, hey, Jordan helped me out with this, and then he's going to be selling my house, and then them referring it to a friend as well. And so it just kind of, I think it was partial with the market and just partial while I was growing in my business, just with it obviously turning into kind of a medium buyers and sellers market with there not being so many buyers with the rates going up, and then kind of simultaneously just having that foundation of my business be built up to where I'm getting referrals from the clients, and those buyer clients are coming back wanting to resell their homes. And so it almost was, I'd say it was like I was trying to kind of shift into that mode right there, but it just kind of happened in a sense, and you just roll with the punches with real estate, and it's just always so fast and quick and cut and dry all the time, where it's just like you wake up the next day, you're like, what did I do yesterday? Oh, I did that, and that, and then it just happens. It's kind of strange, but I think it was partial with the market, but also just partially just growing, as a salesperson myself, with knowing how to attack those leads and, just knowing how to course and guide them and saying the right things during list appointments and so on and so forth. So typical day is I'll usually wake up around about 6 or 6:30. I really try not to look at my phone until I leave the house. I'll try to go and work out in the mornings and just try to get my blood flowing and wake up my brain and stuff. And then I usually am on the phone during the gym and on my way to the gym, kind of answering texts or emails from the morning of. And then, I go back home, and I've implemented cold showers in my routine 2 weeks ago, and it's changed my life, honestly. It's awesome. I could only do 10 seconds in the cold shower, worked my way up to about 1:20 now, just in 2 weeks. And so, I've had a lot of clients. I had a client tell me probably 3 weeks ago, he was like, it changed my life. I used to get sick and all this stuff. And so I started doing those, and those have been a big help. But and then basically just depending on where the appointment's at in the day, but usually just first thing kind of come to the office and then really just kind of go over everything. Okay, what did I do yesterday? And then go over basically my list of buyers, my list of my current listings, my upcoming listings, the buyers that I'm nurturing right now, and I usually will grade them on A, B's, and C's, D's, kind of where they're at, and then really kind of as a CRM, I'll use Zillow, and I've been using Moxie quite a bit as well, but really, a lot of my notebook, and then also a lot of the cardboard board that I have, just listing those buyers. And I always will put the last date that I followed up with them on, and then grade them from how that last conversation went. And then always trying to get a timeline from them if they're not too hot of a buyer, or they're not hey, send me homes, or, hey, I'm not quite ready. Then just nurture them slowly but surely. You don't want to stalk them or overwhelm them or anything like that. But, I'd say the good rule of thumb, kind of depending on where they are, if they're a C client, I would say I might reach out to them about maybe once every kind of 2 to 3 weeks, just to kind of give them market updates, where it's going, where the rates are at. If they're a B client, then I'd say probably going to touch base with them at least once a week. And then A client, I would say probably anywhere from nearly almost every day, because when they get the green light, it's okay, let's rock and roll. I'm going to be sending them homes every day. Let me know what you guys think. You got any questions, anything like that, let's rock and roll and go show them. And so, I do like to have structure in the day, but a lot of times with real estate is, it's just very sporadic and shooting from the hip a lot of the times. And so, but really just kind of sitting down and just saying, okay, what do I have for my upcoming, what can I do to, if I have listings that are sitting, what can I do with those? Do I need to have those conversations about price reductions, or what has the feedback been, and when do I need to contact those clients? And then really where the buyer's at, let's send them a list of homes, let's schedule showings, and then kind of go into, what I have pending currently, and then just making sure I have all my docs completed for those ones as well. And I want to be able to give more structure and more things to what I do every day, but it's really just, it's pretty sporadic for the most part, and so I'm not one of those agents where, you call me and it's I only meet in person from 3 to 5 p.m. It's really, I want to get things closed. I want to get the deals done. So if that client calls me and they're like, hey, I want to look at this 7:30 tonight, 8 o'clock. I'm like, perfect, let's do it, just because I already got enough things going on the next day and the day of. So the way I look at it, if I can scratch them off for just that day, no matter what the time is, that's just one less thing I have to do the following day or the following week in a sense. So, but yeah, it's just all over the place sometimes, but you try to add some structure to it, you know, and I mean, really just taking things on head first and just trying to get them scheduled and done as quick as you can. So, yeah.
Okay. Speaking of systems, how do you keep track of all your clients?
I'd say, I mean, I've been using, I've used Zillow for a long time, the Premier Agent app, as well as even Moxie. Lexi helps me keep up on leads as well, with just sending me kind of list of, you know, all the clients in a sense, and then me just making sure that I'm keeping in touch with them. But a lot of times, I mean, you know, like if I get a lead a lot of times, and the way I look at it is I'll reach out to them, I'd say at least probably 3 times. And if I don't get a response back on the 3rd time, I mean, I might reach out to them again the next quarter and, you know, put them on the automated email list just to get updates and whatnot. But I always say, if I don't want to, I always tell clients, I'm like, hey, can I get your email? I'm not going to bombard you. I'm not going to set you up on a drip campaign. I'm just doing this to send you lists each and every day. And if you don't want to do that, then I can just send that to you over in text message. And so, but yeah, I'd say Moxie, and I recently started doing CMAs on Moxie. I never did CMAs actually. I always just grab MLS sheets and just highlighted the main facts like asking price, lot size, square footage, sold price, how many days on market. And kind of, I saw Matt do that where he just grabbed some crumpled up MLS. He's like, hey, this is that, and we're gonna list at this price. And it was just like, and I had a lot of success with that too. But a lot of time, really the only reason why I started using Moxie is just because it's way easier, honestly. It's just, it gives it more detailed. And
it's pretty.
Yeah, and it's pretty as well, you know. And so, but I mean, I had a situation where, you know, the folks were that one listing I went over on Sunnyside, and they couldn't, and I tried to pull it out and they couldn't see really well. And so luckily I did bring the other comps with me. And so I was just kind of showing them, and I was like, I don't know how you guys can see this much better, but this is highlighted, this is that, you know. And so it depends on the situation a lot of times. And, you know, even especially too, like on the type of listing, like the one that I had on Clark Court, I couldn't find any comps for that. So I had to get real creative with that one, with almost dividing up the lot, what we could sell that for, what we could sell that 2,900 square foot house for, and then what we could sell the ADU for as well, and just kind of combining those 3 and trying to come up with the values since there was nothing else like it out there. And it worked out too. I was afraid for the appraisal, but I met the appraiser there and I showed her kind of the way I came up with it, and she was like, oh, that's creative. And I was like, there's no other way to do it really. You know, I couldn't pull any other comps. And so, but yeah, and so going back to the lead gen, I'd just say, I mean, you know, always, at the end of the day, always look through all your emails, always look through all your texts. Your notes app in your phone will save your life sometimes. I mean, especially too, if you're on the phone, if you're driving or something. I mean, I will just go in my notes, type, and I probably use voice control 24/7 now just because it's so easy, and it gets me in trouble sometimes just because it's not too accurate, you know. But yeah, I use voice control all the time. But I mean, when you start making money, it's awesome. You're like, wow, great. It's freedom, right? So money is freedom. But, you know, I always kind of came from where you can't take money to the grave with you. And ultimately, I would just like to live comfortable. I'm a pretty simple guy. And so, I mean, if I can go to my sporting events and do my blackjack in Vegas and different little things, like I don't need too much, you know, honestly, to be happy in life. But I'd say really probably the main drive for my success is my parents got divorced when I was 4 years old, and I had a messy childhood with them always bickering. My parents went through bankruptcies, and, you know, we had weeks sometimes where it was like, hey, we have to eat Hot Pockets for a week because we don't have any money, you know. And so, and I've seen that process. You know, I've had a parent lose a home before, and so, and growing up and kind of going through all that, I remember that those times weren't fun whatsoever. And so I'd say really the main reason I could drive is a few different reasons. I mean, ultimately to create something to where I can have generational wealth that I could provide to my kids. And if I can, you know, get into a spot that I have in success to not only include my family, but the people that I like and love along with me, I always say I get more gratification out of seeing someone else succeed when I've helped them take the steps to do so rather than myself. And so I would say really it's, you know, it's the freedom aspect of it, but also being able to set up something that I didn't have when I was younger, which is set up generational wealth and set my kids up in a position that, I didn't have, or, my parents didn't have, and so on and so forth in a sense. And so, I mean, my goal is I really want to become the first millionaire in my family. That's really, really my goal. And it's not even just because like, oh, I want to have millions of dollars, but it's just for all those reasons of, making sure my kids are taken care of, making sure that I can pay for their schooling because I didn't have that opportunity. And I dropped out of college too. I mean, I had terrible grades at a 2.1 cumulative GPA in high school. I didn't get into WSU. I didn't get into EWU, ASU. I tried to apply for everything, and I was heartbroken with that. All my friends were going to college. They were going to frats, and like that was kind of my personality back then. Like I like to have a good time and stuff, and it broke my heart. And so I was like, and I think a lot of that was, and I'm still pissed that I missed out on that experience, honestly. But it all worked out for a reason, obviously, but I'm going to make my kids go to college no matter what the case is, and if I can set up the steps to, take care of it and pay for it for them, and that was an opportunity that I didn't have, and I'm going to make sure they get 4.0s. I mean, and so, yeah, I'd say ultimately that the success is just making sure my family and my friends can be set up. I can get in a position of that wealth and success, and that's all I could really ask for. So, yeah.
Your kids are in trouble already.
Yeah, I'm gonna crack that. I've been
knows
learning
how
from
that
Matt over here. He's a.
Vicky's parents were hard graders, so
Yeah.
mine too.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
it's like you are going to go to college.
Right.
I don't care what happens after.
Yeah, 100%.
So I know the answer to this, but what do you do to relax?
I like to golf. Golf is really fun. I recently started golfing about 2 years ago, and it changed my life. Honestly, it's a great way to. It's a great. I wish I was golfing right now, to be honest with you. But the sun's out and it's springtime. But yeah, I'd say golfing. It's a great way to kind of unwind and just kind of relax and whatnot. And then working out too, that's just a stress reliever in itself, just kind of getting and like, especially with my body being so busted and broken, like sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I'm just cracking and popping everywhere. And so like if I can go to the gym and stretch and get loose and stuff like that, it makes me just feel a lot better about my day. And so I'd say, yeah, that. And then, I mean, I don't want to say it's relaxing watching sports because I get really fired up during those things, but I mean, going out to dinner, going on dates, hanging out with friends and stuff, golfing, maybe playing some video games every once in a while. But I'm pretty simple guy, to be honest, so it doesn't take too much to just make me relax. I mean, really, if I can just,
that about you.
yeah, honestly, relaxing is if I can just, even if it's in the office or even like at my house, I put my AirPods in, the noise cancellation, and I'm just zoomed out and I don't hear anything and nothing's bothering me. That's my zen kind of right there. And so, yeah, I've been waking up in the morning, I just put my AirPods in and just noise cancel everything. Don't look at my phone and don't hear any sounds or reactions, and just it's almost like a meditation in a sense, It's kind of strange, but if you see, like, I'll walk around the office with my AirPods in every day because it blocks out all outside noise and you just stay focused to like what's in front of you, because I've realized that I have ADHD. I didn't know that till about 2 years ago. But because my fiance would always tell me like, you have ADHD, and I'm like, no, I don't. And then I'll be like having 5 things in front of me and I'll get halfway on that. Then I'll go on the next one. I'll be like, oh, let's go back to that. Yeah. And so I do, but I honestly think it helps me do real estate and it helps me kind of balance so many things at once in a sense, but yeah, it gets me sometimes.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have to share, WSU played Drake in the,
Oh, yeah, on
I
Saturday.
graduated from Drake.
Oh, really?
And we were ahead the whole time.
Oh, right.
And then you guys won. WSU won.
See, I'm not really, I didn't get accepted to WSU, so I kind of have a middle finger to them, honestly, and so like, yeah, and like it's funny, like all my friends, even like right, yeah, even like my in-laws, all huge Cougar fans, and I just kind of like to be that a-hole in the corner. It's like, go Dogs, go UW,
Okay.
But I don't really care, honestly,
I
people
appreciate that.
Yeah, and so I cheer
2
for.
more questions, and then I will open it up to questions from the audience. So advice to agents, new agents especially, but all agents that are here.
I'd say for the new agents, and I mean, I tell Victor this all the time, but just be in front. What you put into real estate is what you're going to get out, So if you're the type where, you maybe try to do 30 minutes or 60 minutes of each, this doesn't apply to Matt, but 30 to 60 minutes of doing something each day, maybe, like that's not going to get you over that hump to get the ball rolling for your career. So, I mean, I would say even if you don't have anything to do, just come in here and hang out with other agents, talk about just different listings, different things away. And honestly, I mean, if you guys are in here, come in with me. I always have things I can help out with, whether it's, hey, you want to come on a listing with me, a listing appointment. Do you want to get put on one of my listings, have your sign out there for the open house, just to kind of drive some extra traction. And so, I mean, just never giving up, and really that first 6-12 months and even longer than that, it's going to suck. It's not going to be successful. And if you just don't let it get down on you and you just still try to show up every single day, do what you do, and it'll all come together eventually. It takes a while, but after you do that one deal, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I went through the inspection, the appraisal, and now it's closing. I guess I did it kind of, that was like the first deal. I was like, I guess I kind of did this thing, it kind of worked, And so, and once you do that, then the second time around, you're like, okay, I kind of know the process. And then the more time you're in the field with people, more time you're talking on the phone, texting, just having those professional conversations, whether it's with the buying and selling or anything along the lines of real estate. Once you keep doing it, you just, like I said, kind of fake it till you make it in a sense, and you get so used to it that just starts to kind of become part of your personality with the work in your workspace. So, just don't stop at it. Just keep your head down and keep plugging away. And there's going to be times where things suck, but if you just keep checking out every day, it's going to end up working out in the long run.
Great. Yeah. So, do you have a coach?
So when we first got started, I mean, obviously I've worked with you in the past, and then when I was in a spot to where, and Vicky, Matt, and even too, like, now when I've gotten to a spot to where I remember when I first got started, I was like, oh, I have an edge on everyone with the social media, like the Instagrams and the Facebook, because that wasn't really too popular back in like 2017, 18. I mean, it was there, but people weren't really using it as much for like a social ad engine in a sense. And so, but now, people are like on the TikToks and things like that, and I mean, like, I'd say there's things that you can really learn from even the new agents in a sense, I mean, I think if you get into a spot to where you're like, oh, I know everything, and, people coming up, oh, that's not the right way to do things, then you're already behind in a sense, just always get in front of the problems before they get in front of you, and just always stay in front of things. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room a lot of the times, And so, never really, don't ever deny, like, if they have new people up and coming and I don't know what the next craze, the next thing's going to be, but when it comes time to that, I mean, take it with an open mind, because you never know if that's going to be the next thing. I mean, I don't think even 10 years ago, who would have thought 99% of buyers were looking on Zillow and Realtor.com and things like that, And so it just, things evolutionize and change, and you have to be with that change as well, in a sense. So, but yeah, obviously you helped me get started with just combating deals and kind of learning how to navigate with clients in a sense, and obviously Vicky being there as well. Matt showed me a lot of the fun with it, honestly, with how it does it, like, so there's a lot of other things that I'm not going to mention that he showed me as well, but we could say that for another day. But and so, I mean, and then obviously my mom too, she was a big help, and a big reason why I got into it as well. But yeah, I mean, I'd really say, you, Vicky, Matt, my mom, and even Bowlesby too, he's a huge help. I chat with him about stuff all the time. He's been around since, I don't even know how long at this point, honestly, but, right. Yeah. And it honestly, I mean, props to you and kudos to you, Bowlesby, for literally having the entire Valley market and not knowing how to speak Spanish. Like, it's impressive, honestly. So, yeah.
Awesome.
I do some of it myself. I delegate it out to someone that helps me do it, and really, and I can help you out with that too and connect you. But yeah, really, I'd say it depends kind of on it, but I stick with about one post a day. And I don't post on Saturdays or Sundays. But for the work side of things, Monday through Friday, and I believe on Monday, it's kind of just the market, just what's all going on in the market and all the numbers. And then always will post upcoming or new listings, new under contracts, new solds, always try to go to the signings, get pictures with clients, and post those as well. And then really, I mean, it's been pretty steady ever since I really started having someone help me with the social media, to where, you know, there is little times there where it's like, okay, well, hey, you know, I only got maybe one deal under contract, or I got 0, you know, under contract this week. So, you know, what should we post? You know, okay, well, let's post, you know, client reviews. Let's ask a, you know, listing agent with a multi-million-dollar listing, hey, can I show the photos? Would you mind if I borrow those photos and put them on my social media? Ask other agents around, like, hey, can I take a video at your listing and, you know, just go there? And whether it's even on your iPhone, I mean, they have so many apps and things that you can be creative with now that, I mean, all you need is just a smartphone, and you can just, I mean, you can post anything at the end of the day, you know? And so, and then, yeah, recently I want to get into, like tips, you know, just like short little 30 to 60-second clips. And just because I know like the algorithms are really weird on social media. So like I know Reels right now on like Instagram and Facebook, like those get the most traction. They try to post those. And us as Americans, our attention span is just like this, you know, a lot of times. So I mean, I think if you can just, you know, try to create and get a quick answer and something that's a 20 to 30, 40, no more than a 60-second video, then, you know, that's just gonna, and you stay consistent with it, then people are gonna start to notice that, and then it just all starts to build eventually after a while, in a sense, you know. And so, but yeah, I mean, just a lot of different things. New construction plots, there's so many things you could, you know, post about. And I mean, probably wouldn't even be a bad idea to maybe like in a Wednesday meeting get a whole list of all the different topics that you could post about, because it's never ending. And if you do that at least 5 days a week, people are going to start to take notice, you know. And so, and then when it comes time to them to buy a house, and be like, oh yeah, I saw so and so, you know, they're doing it every single day, and I'm going to message them, or I'm going to call them, you know. And so, yeah, yeah.
And you know, 21 Online every Monday gives you ideas what you
Oh,
can
right.
post too.
Nice.
So, other questions?
Yep.
I have one. I feel like Jordan is someone who I consistently see closing one or more properties a week. How do you like keep consistent and keep your pipeline full, but not just like, you know, like some people, like I'll have like 3 closings at once, but then I feel like shit now.
Right,
you know,
right,
like,
yeah.
I feel like you every week are consistently
Yeah,
closing.
it honestly, I mean, it depends, because like I'll have some weeks, or I'll have like a month where I maybe have like 3 or 4 closings, and then the next month it might be, you know, 12 closings in a sense. And so that's a great question, and it really just, and sometimes I feel like too, like I'll get, you know, a weekend, I'll be like, oh, I haven't really gotten anything under contract. Like I remember last week I was like, oh, I haven't gotten anything under contract this week. And I usually try to, if I can do like 1 a week, then it's like, okay, great. 2 is like cake. I'm like, perfect. And it's so, and I was thinking, I was like, oh, like I didn't get that under contract. And then I literally looked at my email right after that, and I had an offer on one of my listings. I was like, what the heck? That's kind of weird, honestly. And so it's, you know, it just depends really. And I hate saying that. It's a good question. It's hard to answer, but it's kind of just that's almost kind of the universe sometimes, you know. It's like, yes, I'm manifesting those things and I'm doing those deals, but really like all the points I've talked about with just, you know, staying consistent in it, always posting, that kind of just comes back and returns the favor in a sense. And it just kind of all just works its way. But it's just very sporadic sometimes, you know. It's like I said, I mean, some it can be 1 or 2, you know, a month or a few weeks, then it can just be, you know, times 5 of that the next month around. And sometimes, I mean, I wish I could control the closings and like lining them up to better dates and more even, because it's like, you know, I remember on my birthday in 21, I had 5 closings on my birthday. It was Friday, September 3rd, and 2 of them, 2 were in Grandview, and then 1 was in Sunnyside, and then 1 was in Kennewick, and then Pasco. And it was a great birthday, honestly. I mean, I was excited. I was like, heck yeah, we're closing deals, you know? And so, and all of them went smooth and closed on time. I was like, that's the best birthday present I could have ever asked for, honestly. And so, yeah, it really depends. But I mean, just with staying consistent, and I mean, especially with you, I mean, you've been kicking butt, you know? And so, I mean, if you just keep doing what you're doing, like, literally, I would tell you, don't change a thing, and it all is going to start to come back and reap the benefits of that 100%. So, yeah.
I think what you said, the most important thing is consistency. When you stay consistent, then the business becomes less of this and more of this.
Right.
Which I think you're doing a great job
Right,
with that.
100%. Yeah.
Other questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still run ads on social media? And what type of ads did you run? And what is the most effective?
And so when I haven't ran too many, it depends. If I have a stagnant listing, then I will run some ads. But really what I like to run ads on for the listings is video tours. So get a video tour and try to make it cut and dry. And I've learned video tours to where I used to, have them film me walking throughout the house, walking and talking. And I realize people don't give a damn about what I have to say, really. They're there to look at the house and the picture. So a lot of times, like, a lot of the videos been taken, I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything, honestly. Just put the address and the MLS and the price of it, maybe my contact info, and I might do, like, I think the last introduction I did was for like the 47 Parade home because there was a lot to unpack there, and so I think I did it with that one. But I've noticed with resale listings, I mean, even if it's kind of I don't want to say, even if it's like a lower listing, like a 200 or 250K, I mean, then just go there, yourself and just do a quick little video tour. And you can get a gimbal on Amazon, and that just kind of helps stabilize your phone. They're really easy to use. And then I would say just do a walkthrough throughout the house, upload it, put a speed on it, add a little bit of music to it, post that on Facebook. And then they have really, there's a lot of different ways that you can advertise on Facebook too. Like you can do any types of days and any amount of money. And so if you're like, well, I want to run a 7-week ad and I want to spend $250 on that ad, then they're going to promise you and say it is going to get anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500 views. If you're like, well, I want to do 7 days but only spend $100, then it's going to say you're going to get 1,000 views to 2,000 views in a sense, And so I always kind of run small ads on there. But when I was first getting started, this is where I found a lot of success, and it doesn't matter whether it's with 47, JK Monarch, any other builder in here. Grab the plat maps or a really good picture of that home and post it, and just do something that's catchy and short with upcoming phase, contact for more questions, as long as it's within all the legal boundaries with all what you can post, so advertise nowadays. But I found a lot of success with that, just posting plats of different things or homes of different things and really highlighting that area, especially like down in the valley area. When we had all those new construction, like the 9 new construction homes, I was advertising that a lot, and I got a ton of leads and tractions from that just there. And so videos are really good to do, plat maps, pictures, and even little walkthrough videos. And depending on which location you're doing that in, whether you're specifically in Richland, you can set that demographic to capture people that are interested in a certain amount of topics, different age demographics, and you can really target who you're trying to talk to on those specific websites. And so Facebook and Google are probably some of the best for advertising. Instagram, I mean, it's the same with Facebook. They're both owned by each other now. So if you advertise on Facebook, it'll advertise on Instagram as well. And then even too, kind of going off topic, but Zillow was it's kind of changed quite a bit, but it was a really good, it was great advertising. It's expensive, and you can get certain shares of certain zip codes. And so I think for a while I had like the 301 Pasco zip code, and I had 99336, and I think it was spendy. It was like, I think $2,000 a month, but I was getting like 2 to 3 really solid leads there each month, and so it was paying itself back. But then, if my business did start to kind of slow down in a sense, then I'd probably would go back to that and try to, attack that social media in a sense. But in Facebook, even Zillow, sometimes you're gonna get a lot of dead leads on Facebook, but it's just knowing how to work smarter, not harder, and how to answer them accordingly. And then on Facebook too, basically when someone goes to message you, you can set automatic replies in. So basically the first reply would be like, hey, what are the details of this house? Or hey, what's the price? But I always try to lead those into like a call. Hey there, what's a good number for you so you can call, so I can give you a call and go over the details of this house? Or what's a good time to meet? And so I'd really try to, put those automated messages for when they do contact you. They're just automated questions you ask. I believe you get 3 or 4 that you can put in there, and you can fill them out yourselves, but trying to put them on there to where they're just contacting you and calling you and just not getting the answer and then taking off and running in a sense, And so, I'd say that's probably the best. So with the Facebook side of things, I mean, like I said, whether it's the JK Monarchs or even if it's just going back and posting an old, parade home in a sense, showcasing that builder, contact me for upcoming phases, lots available, homes available, and kind of going into a niche to where you're like, oh, I really like this builder and this area, so I'm going to blast that and advertise that and try to get the leads from that certain demographic. So yeah, that's how I'd work it. Yeah, if you guys ever need anything or have any questions, just come in the office, call me. I'm always here to help, so yeah, of course.
Thanks, guys.
All right, cool. Yeah, thanks, guys.